All right, so rereading, going back close to Mr. Oaxax's head now, Poppy stopped again. The owl's great eyes were wide open, staring up into the sky. His devil-like tufts of feathers were bent. His beak was open. As Poppy watched, it snapped listlessly. Now do you remember?
Yeah.
Mr. Oaxax? No answer. She took a step closer. Mr. Oaxax? His head turned slightly. For a moment, his eyes seemed to focus on her. Sometimes, he murmured, sometimes I wonder why I bother to protect you. With that, his beak made a final clack shut. His eyes closed. Poppy knew it then. Mr. Oaxax was no longer alive. How did Mr. Oaxax die? What happened to him, Marchell?
He ran head first into the pole.
He ran head first into the pole that had the salt on it.
So did the salt fall down?
The salt fell down, yep.
It was a big chunk of it.
It was big chunks on the ground. Chapter 19. Adrian, you're not supposed to be back there, honey.
I thought she stopped it with the thing because I saw a stick coming out his foot.
Yes, she did. She stabbed his foot, remember, and he was dragging her along everywhere, and he was up in the air and flying, and she was hanging on to it.
It kept
I don't
going
think I was
in
in
and
there.
in.
Really? Were you here yesterday after? Oh, you fell asleep during our read aloud.
Wake you up 100 times.
Oh, no wonder. Okay, chapter 19, The Return. The Return. For a long time, Poppy gazed at the lifeless body of Mr. Oaxax. She thought that she should be feeling triumphant joy. Plain gladness would have been good enough. Somewhere she did feel pride. But small as she was, it was buried deep. What Poppy felt was weariness, as if she had aged 4 seasons over the last hour. She felt old. Before her on the grass lay one of Mr. Oaxax's feathers. Poppy had never really looked at an owl's feather. This one was quite lovely. It was a molted brown color with a white tuft on top, soft as any baby's breath. She picked it up. In the breeze, the veins stirred slightly. With a sigh, Poppy slipped the feather into her sash. Then she turned and looked at the cornfield. At first, she thought what she most desired was to lie down and sleep. It was growing dark. But a moment's thought made her realize that sleep was impossible. What she needed to do was tell someone about her discoveries and what had happened. She crossed the dirt road and moved along the edge of the forest. There was enough of the porcupine's lingering scent for Poppy to find the trail that Erith had used to go from his home to the field. For once, and it made her smile wanly, she was grateful for the old fellow's stink. Plunging directly into Dimwood Forest, Poppy traveled slowly, methodically, taking the time for proper precautions. Now and again, she paused to absorb the lush view, the way moonlight filtered through the fragrant air, a very tall tree, a particularly beautiful fern, a bush laden with blackberries as big as her head. When Poppy reached Erith's log, she paused long enough to contemplate Mr. Oaxax's now abandoned snag. Who, she wondered, would live in it now? Erith, she called into the log from the entryway. Are you home? Erith! In response, there was some scratching and snorting deep within. That you, Erith? Who the snail squirt is that?
Yep, that's English.
Came the growled reply. Can't a creature have any privacy around here? Beat it, unless you want to eat a quill sandwich. Erith, it's me, Poppy. Who? Don't you remember? Poppy. Poppy, came the echo, with more enthusiasm than before. A great rattling and shuffling could be heard. Then Erith's grisly, flat face loomed out of the darkness. That really you, girl? Where is it? Where is what? The salt. Didn't you bring it? Erith, it's about Mr. Oakhax. I don't give a flea's flick for that dirk of an owl. Where's the salt you promised me? It's there, by Newhouse. It's all broken up on the ground. On the ground? Erith shrieked. What's it doing there? Erith, I couldn't carry it. And besides, on the ground, great snail swoggle, it'll melt to nothing. The porcupine came barreling by so fast. Poppy had to leap aside. The next moment, he was all but running down the trail. Can I sleep here? Poppy called after him. Can't stop to talk, Erith called back.
You just did.
And indeed, he was gone. Please don't make so much noise with those bags if you can help it, okay? Thank you. Poppy stepped into the log, lay down, and was asleep at once. She slept until the sun was high. When she woke, Erith had not yet returned. So she went out, found some seeds, ate them, and returned to the log, and slept again until dusk. This time, when she awoke, Erith was there. He was chewing in a roisterous, slobbering way on a chunk of salt. Hello,
What if that was sugar?
Poppy said. Erith didn't even look up. Delicious! Best salt I ever had. He licked his lips. Awesome. Then you got some of it? Some of it? All of it. I'm just about ossified. This is the last bit. It was all pure, wonderful salt. Absolutely delicious. Amazing. Divine. Erith? What's that? Did you see Mr. Oakhax? Oh, yeah, him. Dead. What happened? Poppy told him. The porcupine, though busy with the salt, slowed his slobbering to listen. When Poppy finished her story, she asked Erith, "What do you think?" Erith shook his head. "Never thought I'd appreciate that owl's hard head. But if what you say is true," "It is." "Well, I'm grateful he broke up this salt lick. Really, Poppy, it's incredible stuff. Want some? I mean, a small taste." "Erith, what's that?" "I'm going home now. May I come back and visit?" "Sure, Poppy, sure. Anytime. And bring some salt." Poppy crossed. "Oh, I'm going now." "Poppy!" "What?" "You're the salt of the earth." Poppy crossed Glitter Creek by using the bridge. The rest of the way she traveled by the side of the tar road. By the time she reached Gray House, it was late. The first thing she noticed was that the red flag was flying. She climbed the porch steps slowly. Instead of going right inside, she took a peek. The entire family was gathered in the front parlor. Longwort stood atop the old straw hat, apparently in the middle of a speech. "And so, dear friends, we will have to break up the family. Yes, disperse. Go our separate ways. Forage out on our own. There is insufficient food for us here. But first, I wish to engage in a brief memorial tribute to our full family, which..." "Poppy? Is that you, Poppy?" She stepped inside. All the mice turned to stare. Poppy gazed at them evenly, and then she pulled the feather, Mr. Oakhax's feather, from her sash, and she held it aloft for all to see. "Mr. Oakhax is dead," she said solemnly. "And I can tell you that Newhouse is right next to a big field of corn that has enough to feed us all forever and ever." "Ah, Poppy!" Longwort cried triumphantly. "Didn't I say that if you listened to my advice, all would be well?"
What advice?
No! No. Your advice, actually, the porcupine is not a meat.
It's
Vice Pair. She got her 2 different things.
Exactly.
Chapter 20.
Your advice.
Almost 13 full moons to the night since Mr. Okax killed Ragweed. Poppy and her husband Rye. How they met and married is another story.
Wait, Ragweed?
No, Poppy and her husband Rye. How they
She got
met.
her new man.
How they met and married is another story. Stood on Bannock Hill with their litter of 11 young mice. They had formed a circle around a small hazelnut tree. Looking on beneath a full golden moon was Erith the porcupine. This tree, Poppy was saying to her rather restless children, was planted after a fashion by my late and dear friend Ragweed. I can't be sure that it was he who dropped the seed nut from which this tree has grown, but I would like to think so. Though it is rather frail now, someday this tree...
I knew it was somebody's birthday. I just knew
Happy
it.
birthday. Is it your birthday?
No. Over break is.
Over break is your birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, they're so cute. Ooh, I'm going to do a vanilla one this time. Thank you so much.
Do the napkin?
Yes, please. Actually, will you set it on my back table for me? Thank you so much. Happy birthday, Janaya. Okay. Quiet, please. Thank you. All right, back to where we were. Okay, now here's where Poppy's talking about the tree nut or the seed nut that dropped. Please stop talking. I can't be sure that it was he who dropped the seed nut from which this tree has grown, but I would like to think so. Though it is rather frail now, someday this tree will be mighty. I want to affix this. Here she held up a small earring to a high branch, so as the tree grows, it will glitter in the sky for all of us to see. Hey, does Ma love making long speeches, or does she? Whispered one of the litter to one of her brothers.
Wait, what?
And here on Bannock Hill, Poppy went on, once forbidden to us, though we too live in Dimwood Forest, we shall have our dancing place. They live by Dimwood Forest. It doesn't matter how you dance, my children.
Mr. Okax tree.
It doesn't matter how you dance, my children, slow or fast, by jumps or steps. As long as you are free to dance in the open air by the light of the moon, all will be well. Now, Erith, if you please. Old Erith, murmuring mouse muck under his breath, gave a grunt, but he began to shake and rattle his quills, and still he settled into a steady beat. Then the 11 young litter mice began to dance their own way with jiggles and jumps and leaps and loops. Or lopes. As for Poppy and Rye, they spun round and round in a stately waltz, dancing by the light of the moon and the earring, which glittered high on the hazelnut tree. The end.
Yay!
You guys like the end?